Welcome to the LS 583 Book Talks. I'm Randall Smathers, here to talk about books. Specifically, I'd like to talk about 4 books that fall roughly into the category of science fiction. Certainly books that should appeal to your more geeky YA readers that might come into your libraries. Only some of these, by the way, are on the blog I did for the class. After 41 books, I didn't really feel like I had a good thematic group, so this is books 41 through 45 for me. Today, I'm going to be discussing Gideon Smith and the Mechanical Girl, The Hit, Ready Player One, and Little Brother, along with a couple of honorable mentions. But I wanted to start just briefly talking about science fiction and young adult in general. Science fiction at its roots was all about YA readers, way before they were identified as YA readers, or even as a market share, really. It was pulp fiction designed for mostly teenage boys. And many of the science fiction classics are coming-of-age novels. They have young protagonists looking at the status quo and how they might change it with time and with technology. So Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, Frank Herbert's Dune, even Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers, they fit this mold. Some of them, Childhood's End, 2001: A Space Odyssey, also by Clarke, would be good examples. They are books about an adolescent human race, if you will, making those first steps away from Mother Earth and out into the space between the stars. So a lot of really great science fiction novels are excellent choices for YA readers that you can recommend heartily. And I want to talk about 4 modern books that really fit into that mold. The first one is Cory Doctorow's 2008 novel, Little Brother, published by Tor. Tor is a big name in science fiction publishing, been around for a long time. And of the books of the authors I want to talk about today, Cory Doctorow is also a heavy hitter, kind of like Tor is. In addition to his writing, which ranges from YA through adult. In addition to that, he was European director for the Electronic Frontier Foundation and is a senior editor on the Boing Boing website. And for those of you who are of a technological mind, certainly you've heard of Boing Boing. So he is King Geek. He's not just some guy sitting in his mother's attic writing books. He is part of a movement, and I think it's important to keep that in mind when you're talking about Doctorow. And Little Brother is a good introduction to his work and to his politics. If you're not familiar with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, aka the EFF, they are probably the leading voice for internet freedom on the planet. They fight for things like net neutrality and content wants to be free, and against things like censorship or internet taxation, surveillance, whether done by government or by corporate entities, and things like that. So, at the risk of using a label, I would probably call them a techno-libertarian bunch, and Doctorow fits right into that. Little Brother is designed to indoctrinate youthful readers to fear government, to support hackers, and generally, fight the man, to put it into that sort of 60s thing. And I think it does a pretty good job of it. I think it's a really good book. The lead character, unsurprisingly, is a geek. He's a teenage kid, high school student named Marcus, a computer whiz, and an amateur hacker. Now, he and his friends play these complex, they're called live-action role-playing games, or LARPs. And they combine real world and fantasy. That's what they do. They mix them up. And during one of these games, he and his friends get caught up in the middle of a terrorist attack on San Francisco. A 9/11 on the West Coast, if you will. And then almost immediately they're picked up by Homeland Security, a sweep. And DHS folks just don't care or understand about the games that these kids have been playing, innocent games, and so they are immediately terrorist suspects. And they're imprisoned secretly. No one knows they've been imprisoned, and they're tortured under the auspices of the federal government by the DHS. Now, the DHS in this book, the Homeland Security people, they're much more interested in building a secret police force than they are in catching the bad guys. And the bulk of the book is this sort of undeclared war or semi-declared war between Marcus and his hacker friends on the one side, and the American secret police, the Stasi, if you will, on the other. It's an instant cyberpunk classic. It's just a really well-regarded novel. And I want to read a little bit from page 164. This is the start of chapter 11, and the kids are sort of gathering their forces. So a friend of Marcus's stands up and he says, "This is where it starts, guys. This is how we know what side you're on. You might not be willing to take to the streets and get busted for your beliefs, but if you have beliefs, this will let us know it. This will create the web of trust that tells us who's in and who's out. If we're ever going to get our country back, we need to do this. We need to do something like this." So it's really a revolutionary book. It's a compelling book along the lines of 1984 or Brave New World or Animal Farm, maybe certainly Fahrenheit 451, about a little guy fighting a corrupt authoritarian system. Geek level for the book, 8 out of 10. A lot of technology in it. Realism, 9.5 out of 10. This is one of those books where you say this could actually happen, absolutely happen in our near future. I would recommend it strongly for ages 15 and up. I think it's a good place to start.